Social media has become an integral part of our modern societies, outlining everything from our daily routines to the latest trends. While the popularity of these various sites continues to grow, so does the unchecked power that they unseemingly provide. Social media creates a platform for the influence of cultural ideals and opinions of millions of followers. While not immediately obvious, the power social media provides in our modern society is not too different from the power of the physical thrones of ancient Greece and Rome. It is this modern platform that has given rise to a subtle ruling class of verified accounts that has the ability to drastically alter social circumstance. To better understand the relationship that exists between these classical and modern structures, we will analyze the characteristics of oligarchical rule in Greco-Roman antiquity and compare that to the influence of celebrity personalities on modern social media sites. To begin, we will define this modern oligarchy, outlining some of its key characteristics and examining some examples of its role in society. The textbook definition of an oligarchy is a small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution. Our modern definition will follow much of the same effect, with a few caveats. When defining this oligarchy that has risen from social media, there's a prescribed fame or celebrity status that is required to build a following. Because of the nature of these individuals, their accounts are typically segregated from the general population by a verified checkmark that indicates this account does in fact belong to this celebrity. This effect alone creates the initial separation between the more elite class and the average user. The accounts are also classified by their follower count, with most of them having upwards of a few tens of millions of followers. One distinction between the textbook definition and the modern definition is the fact that this group is connected by their social media presence and not necessarily united on a common issue. It is also important to note that for most purposes, the influence of this ruling class will be restricted to social institutions, with some outlying examples dealing with matters of state and politics. This creates the basis for what is to be defined as a modern ruling class to much the same extent of a textbook oligarchy. To provide more insight, we will next examine an example of this function in modern oligarchy. We'll examine one recent example that highlights just how influential this modern oligarchy has become. Recent updates to Snapchat's user interface have sparked controversy among many celebrities, which culminated to a single tweet from Kylie Jenner denouncing the app that reached her over 24 million followers and consequently resulted in a drop of almost 7% to Snapchat's stocks. What is important to recognize is that the effect of her comment did not only reduce users on the app, but had a major economic impact on the company as well. Here we begin to see just how important this social media platform is to foster the opinions of these verified accounts. While not exactly a direct command, the subconscious rule that Jenner has over her followers is a clear indication of her influence on society. Having defined our modern oligarchical structure, we can now look to examine the classical oligarchical rule of the Greco-Roman societies and compare similarities and understand just how this rule has changed over the ages. To start, we will examine what defines the oligarchical rule within Greco-Roman antiquity and understand some of the roles and influences of this ruling class. According to historian Matthew Simonson, the term oligarchy is purely numerical. It states only that a few rule. The reality was that the identity of these few was almost always without fail the rich. Perhaps a more accurate analysis of the ancient oligarchical structure is presented by Aristotle, who states, oligarchy is based on the notion that those who are unequal in one respect are in all respects unequal. Being unequal, that is, in property, they suppose themselves to be unequal absolutely. Immediately, we begin to gain an understanding of the structure and mindset of this ancient oligarchical rule, and can draw some similarities to that of our modern definition. In terms of structure and participation, our modern definition holds true to antiquity. We see a significant wealth gap between these celebrities and the vast majority of their followers, and the ratio of these verified accounts to their followers puts them in a staggering minority. One key distinction that can be made is that our modern structure is not based on a distinct group. While these verified accounts can be classified into a defining subset, they are not an organized group in the sense that they have all agreed to be part of a ruling structure, as the ancient oligarchies would have been. What is perhaps more interesting to examine is the functionality and public perception of these antiquity structures to our modern elites. The rule of Greco-Roman oligarchies was typically harsh, plagued by both internal and external conflicts. Accounts of Greek oligarchies illustrate that their goals were often most easily obtained not by persuading the members of the demos of the rightness of their programs, but by violent imposition. Ronald Sims' analysis of Roman oligarchies outlines internal conflicts as noble houses suffered defeat in the struggle for power. These descriptions outline a volatile structure which is not readily seen in our modern definition. While conflict does occur both between the individuals behind these verified accounts and their followers, there's an inherent support between followers and the followed that defies these classic oligarchies. There is also significant difference in means of influence. Where the Greco-Roman groups use forceful approaches, it's words and opinions that make bigger impact in our modern society. It is important to understand that these differences are consequences of the nature of each entity's rule. Our modern oligarchies are not fighting for political influence, but are instead looking to make more social impacts and thus are taking different measures to ensure their success. While not an exact replica of the Greco-Roman oligarchies of antiquity, our modern ruling class exhibits many of the same foundational qualities. With the growth of social media and the incredible influence that individuals can have, we find that the essence of oligarchical rule is in the midst of a refinement that brings it into our modern world. In understanding this new era of influence, it's important to recognize the impacts and consequences of its predecessors.